Hello, Veena.
Hi Kumar, how are you?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you. How are you doing now?
I'm good, good, good.
How is your studies getting on?
I'm good. These days I'm just revising my technical models. Like
Right,
I've started with P2, so I'm
right,
just revising all the P2 models, and then I'll be gradually going to E2 and F2 then.
right. Very good. Yes, yes. That is what you must
Yeah.
do. We also did some of the models, but we will do another set later on. But
Mm-hmm.
today I want once again to go back to our mocks to keep you
Mm-hmm.
on the loop for the mocks now again.
Right. Okay. Sure.
We will do a little bit more on the technical models later on. But for the
Mm-hmm.
moment, today let's look at a particular mark. You remember we were looking at a particular mark about the value chain, and then from
Right.
there we came to an issue where actor had certain problems and the
Right.
ethical issues, all that. So now
Right.
arising from that part, the third section of that mark is
Mm-hmm.
all about something like a bonus
Bonus.
issue.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was with you, so we can discuss this one. So 3 weeks passed since the documentary on our film Summer Night was broadcast. We have stopped all
Mm-hmm.
production of the film until we find a new actor for the main role. So ultimately what they have decided is not to go with Stan, which is I think a good stand they have taken.
Right.
And till they find a new actor, of course, they have to suspend the whole film. So here
Hmm.
is the following email from Isabella. And Isabella is
Right.
referring to suspension of film Summer Night. I need your advice. Our Summer Night production team is complaining that the other crews of the films are affected by the ongoing shutdown of the Summer Night production since the documentary. I have forwarded just one email to you, which is typical of the comments that I've been getting. We need to decide on the following. Should we pay them some
Right.
incentives even though there is no production just now on the grounds that the production shutdown is beyond the control of Summer Night production team? Assuming if we decide how much should be paid, setting the concept, looking forward beyond the present concern about the documentary, should we consider linking the production team's bonuses to a balanced scorecard approach? What would the implications of that be? What target should be set on a balanced scorecard approach? So let's look at the letter
Right.
what we get from this girl Shadwin White. Uh, she says she's writing to the finance director. I assigned a
Mm-hmm.
contract with Mentin to act in this film Summer Night. During the past, it had been a regular practice of Mentin to pay an incentive for early completion of films. In all past films of Mentin, we have regularly beaten target completion date and we have enjoyed large incentives for working for Mentin film. I have enjoyed the
Mm.
challenge of working with in past, but I'm concerned that my reputation is going to be damaged by the current suspension of the film ever since that terrible documentary was broadcast. I want you to note down the wording in this
Mm-hmm.
mail, right? She says
Okay.
terrible and she says she enjoyed the challenges, everything. And her reputation is also going to get damaged. As an
Mm-hmm.
actor for this film, I received the contract fee and incentive bonus for early completion. I have always received the maximum bonus in the past for maintained films, but I'm unlikely to receive any incentive for Summer Night. Film was suspended for 3 weeks back while we were on production. Incentive is a significant part of my income. I want you to note down the word incentive, significant,
Mm.
right?
Right.
And in my last year, income almost doubled due to this incentive. So you can see almost 50% of a remuneration comes in form of these incentives. This year,
Mm.
it is clearly not going to happen with Summer Night, and unlike it will happen for the remainder, as the company had decided to suspend all films where Stan was expected to play the main cast, and in most films of Stan, I too play a role.
Right.
If you compare my position with Midnight Blue film actress Cindy, then it is really unfair on me. They did not have shut down because they were not affected by the TV documentary. our incentives are based on early completion and profitability of the film. And on this film, we will have a huge loss because we will have to spend heavily on the actor who will replace Stan. Look forward to hearing from you. So this is a memo that is coming from one of our crew members who is acting on this film. And she says she's not only on acting on this film, but many other films in time to come, where Stan is the main cast. So all our films are at the moment suspended. Nothing is happening. And they were getting a kind of an incentive for early completion based on profitability.
Right.
Obviously, when you complete a film early, you save on cost. You can screen it much more faster. Your profitability increases. So based on profitability, they were getting a kind of an incentive. But now that has stopped here. And she says it's not significant. Her reputation has suffered. So basically, your boss is calling you and is asking, should we pay them some incentives because it is beyond their control? And if we decide how much should we pay, and also beyond this, how to link it up not only on early completion but on trying to look at a balanced scorecard approach.
Okay.
So this is what basically the scenario is. So what do you think? Should we pay? First of all, we must decide when should we pay a incentive, although there is no early completion. Should we compensate them because they have it's not their fault, something like that. That is what they say. You have to think in a question like this, immediate kind of a scenario. Also, you have to think of the kind of a long-term consequences of whatever the decision that we take.
I think we should pay them as a compensation. Because these guys are linked with unions, so obviously they have in their if we do not pay them, then we'll have the legal action kind of things. That's why I think we should be.
Yeah. First thing what we have to find out is, you remember in our obligations, we have what we call constructive obligation, we have legal obligations. Now, you will agree with me, there is no legal obligation because if they have completed the film in advance and if they are not paid, there is a legal obligation. But here, there is no legal obligation. There is not even a constructive obligation arising because probably in the earlier scenarios, there would not have been a scenario like this and we would not have paid them if the film was not done, because the whole purpose of why we are paying is to see that we complete the film early. Understand? Right? So there may not be a legal obligation. There may not be even a constructive obligation for us to pay. Right? From one angle. Because we have to understand why we are paying a bonus. We pay a salary for people who are working, or a fee. Why we are paying an incentive, even though it is significant, it is for a particular task. The task is to complete the film in much early. Right? By not completing the film, if we pay a kind of a incentive, we may be creating a precedent which could be later on be construed as a constructive obligation. Understand? Right? Because, we pay incentive for a particular purpose. But if we ignore that purpose and pay an incentive or a bonus, then the people will think that as their right and it will be their right. And after that, you will never be able to get out of it.
Right, yeah.
Because you have to link the incentive or a bonus to a particular thing. If that particular thing has not happened, then sorry, you can't pay.
Okay.
That is one side of it. One side of it. So we have to be very careful. This is what we have to be careful. You know, the examiners put up the wording in such a way to trap us, you know, saying that it is not their fault and all that kind of a thing, as if, you know, encouraging and even going to the asking, assuming we decide how much we pay, the leading is for us to say, yes, we must pay.
Okay.
But in a company, when we are taking decisions, not like an individual scenario, because it's not only one Shadrin White, there are many who has written this kind of a thing, and therefore there can be a kind of a precedent if we create and if we pay. Because the whole purpose of the bonus is to do the film early. Here we could not do it for whatever the reasons.
Right.
Whatever the reason. Right?
And
if we relax on this particular scenario, later on we will never be able to tie it up. Every time whenever there's a delay, they will quote this particular situation and say that, you know, we need the bonus.
Right.
So we have to be mindful of that part of it. So this is where your leadership skills will be tested. This is where your business skills will be tested to a great extent. However, we have to understand that the suspension was beyond the control of many of the other staff, the crew members and all the others. We have to understand that part of it.
Right.
But we need to be realistic, because they are getting a significant portion of their remuneration package in form of a bonus. But here, and it is based on profitability. Here, this film, at the moment, it seems it is going to end up with a huge loss. You remember, in earlier we saw it is going to be a kind of a loss situation. And because the film is not producing, film is not getting produced at the moment. So with all that, to make a payment like this will be not really appropriate. Right? Company is going through a difficult period. Even the other future films are under suspension. So the company's revenue can get seriously affected. Company's profits can get seriously affected. And to that extent, there is a kind of a risk of company ending up with a loss for the next year. Of course, as you rightly said, most of these film crews are in various guilds in form of some kind of unions. There may be pressure that is being applied on our management, because saying, you know, that it is beyond their control and wanting a kind of a compensation. So that's a good point what you said. But we have to be...
I have a question here.
Yeah, sure.
I was wrong in that concept, because what I thought was this word is incentive. So I thought that the crew is not even getting paid. No salary at all.
No. They are getting paid.
They are getting paid. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
They are paid. They are getting, because they say, if you remember, that's what you have to read carefully. They say, as an I received the contract fee and the incentive bonus for early completion.
Right. Yeah.
But it looks like the contract fee may be comparatively not so big, because she says last year she almost get the double of the salary or the double of the contract fee with so it may be a 50% kind of a scenario if they are giving a bonus for people to complete and earn the incentive, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. That's the way normally the remuneration packages should be linked. Earns are given the basic, but if you want to earn more, let them do something better. So they have taken the challenge, they have done it all the time, and they have got it. Last year, this lady has got almost double the scenario. And she's also, you can see she's comparing with another film, because that is not suspended. So Cindy is acting, so, you know, the actresses also, they have their own internal comparisons. She's telling, look here, Cindy is acting in the other film, there is no problem. She is going through the film. She is going to get the full completion, early completion bonus, but look here, I'm not going to get anything.
Right. Okay.
So now you have to be very smart. You have to, as you rightly see, you can see a kind of a union issue coming up, because it's very honestly, if you see, it's their problem. It is a problem. We selected the wrong actor, and because of that, we probably did not have proper safety measures for our staff, and this man went and misbehaved. Now everything is stopped, and now because of that stopping, the people who have signed with us, they are not getting their incentives. So when you look at from a human angle, there is all the reason we must pay.
Right.
Because it's not their thing. But the moment we pay, we are creating a precedent which will become a constructive liability under IS 37 and will create a situation where we will be later on wanting to, the people will demand this, creating this as a precedent.
Yeah. Okay.
Whether they complete the film or not, they will ask. This is the typical government type of mentality, the government service mentality. You know, they don't want to do anything, but if they have got something, they want it all the time, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
But having said all that, we need to understand that it is beyond their control, and as a measure of goodwill, you probably will be recommending to pay some kind of a token compensation, right? It's a kind of a token amount in lieu of a full bonus. You are not going to pay the full bonus, but for their loyalty, for the appreciation, you will pay a nominal amount.
Right. Yeah.
They also should suffer a loss because the company is losing. Company is not doing very well with this film, and it's not only a question of company not doing well in this film. Company is not going to do well in the other films also. So whether it's company's fault or employee's fault or whatever it is, ultimately your company is in trouble. So they also must share that trouble in a way.
Right. Yeah.
That's the way I think you should be looking at. The comparison of the Midnight Blue and Cindy may be not so relevant because they are complete in the film and therefore they will. So probably the final recommendation will be pay, but not the full amount, but a nominal amount in appreciation of their loyalty, in appreciation of what they have lost, but they must remember that they are not entitled for anything, because why they are paid a bonus is to early completion. For whatever the reason, when there is no early completion, they are not entitled.
Okay. Yeah.
That is how so this is what your examiner will be looking all the time for, this kind of approach.
All right. Yeah.
The second part of that question, assuming that we should pay on the quantum of incentive to pay. Now the next one is all about the future. Always in a question, you must try to remember you have an immediate problem. Immediate, you have to find a solution, but that's not good enough. We must learn from our lessons and see what improvements can be done. So here, he himself, or the examiner himself, is saying, what happens if we put up a balanced scorecard approach? So you remember balanced scorecard approach, but it's a balanced scorecard approach. Balanced scorecard approach goes beyond the financials and sets up certain non-financial key performance measurements, right? Yes, the certain objectives are set and certain measurement targets are set, and then you measure the non-financial things. So the balanced scorecard talks about financial and non-financial. There are three non-financial perspectives: customer perspective, internal business perspective, and learning and innovation perspective, and also the financial perspective.
Right.
So now we have to look at so this you can think, you can sort of appreciate the Isabella's concern about the long-term solution for the present problem what we are having. Long-term problem for the present problem that we are having in the present crisis.
Right.
So the present bonus scheme, we can see it's very simple. It's a very simple thing. It's based on profit, but it's based on early completion. So there's only one single task. It's the early completion of the film, and if that happens, they are being paid a bonus. But the moment you go for a balanced scorecard, it will be a very, very complicated one. So you have to appreciate balanced scorecard is a good thing, but it's a very, very complicated measurement.
Right.
Right. So now here we have to understand whether the balanced scorecard approach, looking forward, about should we consider linking the production team bonus to a balanced scorecard approach. Now, what do you think? What do you think? Should we go for a balanced scorecard approach or no?
Basically, I don't think so we should go, because it will have too many KPIs, like too many key performance indicators. So it would be difficult to judge a person on it.
Yeah, because you have to understand on whom are we setting this one, right? We are setting at a fairly lower level of people. The balance scorecard is good at a higher level people, where the people are expected to perform balancing all the approaches. But when you set up a very complicated balance scorecard for the lower ranks, they will get confused. There will be lot of miscommunication, and they will lose that incentive, and they might even get out focused on every aspect. Yeah, it's a very simple focus. So long as, early completion is going to make us more profit, that should be all right. But in a situation like this, to go and change the entire approach of incentives, not only for this film, but for all the other films, can be somewhat harmful.
Yeah.
Because the balance scorecard can be very harmful if performance measures are not best measured or best suited to a particular scenario. Now, for example, if they put up a balance scorecard, they might encourage people to, do things at low quality, because they might want to go and get the things done fast, and they may not be worried about whatever that is going to happen. So there can be a lot of confusion of all the targets that is there, and they might get completely out focused in every area.
Yeah.
So probably the balance scorecard may not be very appropriate for an for a film industry at the lower levels.
Yeah.
Maybe at the board of directors level, I think it's all right to apply that kind of a thing. Because a balance scorecard can be only linked to a remuneration scheme if there is a kind of a weighting and combination of measures. Now, what can the production crew do in terms of customer perspective? What can they do in terms of internal business perspective? What can they do in terms of innovation? Right? Because they are merely acting. They are merely performing a role. So what can they do? So when they can't do, and if you set performance targets based on things what they cannot do, for which they are not responsible, then of course the balance scorecard will not become a very useful thing, and it can even create what we call dysfunctional behavior. So probably this is not the appropriate place to apply a balance scorecard. And also, if you try to do this kind of a thing, there will be a lot of miscommunication happening. People will get confused, and even the other films which is now running smoothly on this present early completion targets will get distorted, disturbed, and it can create a bigger problem for all the problems what we are having in hands at the moment. You must be very thoughtful. The company is going through a very, very difficult period. In a situation like this, we must not add more problems just to try and answer one issue.
Right. Yeah.
In the event the company decides to go for balanced scorecard, of course, they have to do with lot of induction, lot of training, so that the people will have a kind of a better view, better idea of everything.
Yeah.
So this is how you should try to look at this one. Don't try to overwrite about the balance scorecard. Write little bit about the balance scorecard, but say whether it is going to be applicable or not. Balance scorecard is a good tool, but not for a company like this or not for a situation like this. So that's the way I will go ahead with it, and probably will recommend a small kind of a nominal payment. But what we would want from the staff or the crew is to ensure that what happened in the scenario will not never happen. So we might want to create a kind of a what we call whistleblower. You remember? Whistleblowing, yes. Right? When they see a situation like this, rather than that video man recording and putting it on the TV, the others also would have seen this, right? There should have been an opening for people to come and give their grievances. Even that Anita, some girl who was subject to this abuse, should have been given the opportunity for them to come and talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I will be my answer for a question like this.
Okay.
So you can think of writing a kind of an answer and try to work it out. Now, having gone through all these things, so the first one was all about a value chain. Second one, we had a problem with our own actor, and there were a lot of ethical issues, all that, our own games, creating sort of, without realizing everything was recorded, but probably he did not take too much of notice. All that went through, and probably the company was wrong, not right, because they did not give a proper code of conduct. All that kind of thing happened, and now we see staff is asking for bonuses, etc. So we see another scenario here. Now all these things, you can see the pressure on the company board of directors.
Right.
It's a real troublesome situation for the company. And now let's see what is going to happen. So here 6 months have passed since the TV documentary on our film Summer Night was broadcast. So far, Mentene has not been successful in finding a replacement for Stan, as all top stars are fully booked for 2007. It's natural because it's not easy to get straight away another kind of a suitable replacement, because most of the stars are already signed and there are no good stars available. Our competitors have gone to great lengths to ensure that the viewers remember the documentary that caused the problem by publishing advertisements and mentioning it in press articles, refer sample advertisements. So this is a good opportunity for the competitors. We are the number one in Europe. So they are now attacking us through various press advertisements, etc., about our craziness, our madness of employing Stan. There have also been continuing press reports concerning Stan, who is taking legal action against Mentene for the breach of contract and adverse publicity continue. So you can see the company is going through a real crisis. One side, Stan is trying to take legal action, right? Competitors are putting up all sorts of things. Films are not happening. The crew is getting upset. So this is a very crisis situation for the company. All because of one film, one actor playing crazy.
Right.
So you get an email from your CEO. Getting tired and fed up with continuing negative publicity from this documentary, especially since we have not been able to find a replacement actor for Stan, although 6 months have lapsed. As you are aware, the Summer Night Finance Limited has 60% equity is owned by Mentene and the balance by LOLC. Right? So remember, always the films are funded by majority by us and another by some other company. In this case, a company called LOLC, they are given 40%. One possibility that have been put forward is that we should sell 50% of our equity on this film to LOLC, just retaining 10% of the equity. Now here they are thinking to sell our 60%, out of 60% sell 50% to LOLC. So in that case, this company, Summer Night Finance, will not be our subsidiary. At the moment it's maintained subsidiary, but the moment we sell 50%, it will be a 90% owned by LOLC, 10% by us. Maintained distributors could bid with other distributing companies to distribute the film, and Summer Night Production can continue to produce the film. So remember the film structure. We have a film owning company, the finance company. Then we have a film production company, and then we have the distribution company. So what they are now thinking is, okay, let LOLC take over the owning company, 90%. We will just hold the 10%. And after that, once the film is produced, they can either give it to our own company, our own distribution company, or they can give it to some other company. We would retain 10% of Summer Night Finance to retain some influence over the way the business is run. Now you have to understand, you can't have a significant influence. To have a significant influence, you must have anything more than 20%.
50%. Yeah, anything more than 20%.
Anything more than 20 to 49 is what we call significant influence. If you have anything more than 50%, then we are controlling the company.
Yes, yeah.
So here, by having 10%, neither we have significant influence, nor we have any control. We can only have, as they say, some influence, not a very much of a big thing we can do. Only thing, we will be still doing the production. Right? We will be able to claim that Summer Night indeed is owned by LOLC. So in other words, we want to get away from this film and quickly move out from this crazy situation. And we want to say it's no longer maintained film. It is a film that is being owned by Summer Night, by LOLC. Please email your thoughts on the following. What impacts will the disposal of Ascent Finance subsidiary will have on Maintain's consolidated financial statements? We don't require any calculations at this moment, but we need to know what will happen to the account. So the impact that it is going to happen on our consolidated financial statements. Remember what is given in the consolidated financial statement, and also we need to know what will happen to the account. How can we value shares of Ascent to negotiate the consideration that need to be paid by LOLC for our 50% stake? How can we tell whether the net effect or diversity in the subsidiary will be to enhance future cash flows? So there are a couple of parts in the question. Right? And also let's look at the advertisement, what is happening. A recent advertisement of our competitor. These films do not employ immoral cars. We films where moral people are chosen for the cars. So it's a direct attack on our film, on our setup. It's a direct attack. This is the kind of advertisement that is coming up. No doubt Stephen is very disappointed with this whole situation. He wants to get away from Summer Night quickly. So now think of the scenario. So basically, they have looks like is balanced. One possibility, it's not yet completed, it's not yet finalized, but there's a possibility that they can get LOLC, because LOLC will be somewhat interested. LOLC has already put 40% money, right? If they don't do anything, if the film is not produced for whatever the reason, they will lose their 40% share. It's not a loan. It's not a loan, so the directors are not under obligation to pay them. If the film is succeeded, they will get a profit share. But if the film doesn't succeed, they will not be doing. So it may be in their own interest for them to buy a controlling interest and to revamp the film, saying it's no longer maintained, it's LOLC, and try to do something out of it. So that's what I think they are thinking about. So now we have to think about the impact that this is going to have on our financial statements. So we are going to dispose a subsidiary, right? We are going to dispose our controlling interest. So the moment the controlling interest is disposed, you remember I told you, then it's no longer a subsidiary. So we have to, once it disposed, we will get some consideration for the 90% or for the balance 50% that what we have, right? We will get a consideration. So plus the fair value of what we are holding, 10%, what we are retaining, that is what we will be retaining, the 10%, the fair value of that one, plus whatever the money we get for the 50%, this will have to be offset against the assets that what we are disposing or what we are transferring to the LOLC, because we are no longer the owner of the company. So the entire 100% will be transferred, and plus any goodwill, if at all, that also will be transferred, right? So because after that you don't have a goodwill because you are no longer controlling. So goodwill will be transferred. You don't have any control of assets. All assets will be given. The only thing what we are holding is we hold a 10%, and for that there's a value. And for the 50% what we are selling, we will get some money that we have to compare with what we are sacrificing. And if it is the consideration plus the 10% fair value is more than what we are sacrificing, then it's a profit. Otherwise, it's a loss for us.
Loss. Yeah.
Now, very unlikely that we can make a profit in this situation. That also you can say straight away. Because the company does not have a good stand in here. And surely LOSC will be looking for a bargain price here. Because LOSC knows that we are frustrated, we don't want to go ahead with it. So she will be, definitely they will be looking for very low disposal, low price to buy that one. So we of course we have to transfer it at open price based on negotiations. And finally, we may end up with a loss. If that is the case, we will have to show that loss in our own financial statement.
Right.
So that is what we have to recognize. That is the impact what we are going to have. We will no longer consolidate in the SN Finance company. The goodwill arising out of that company plus all the net assets of that company will be disposed. The consideration we get for the 50% plus the 10% fair value of the assets what we hold will be matched against the consideration. If the consideration is more than the net assets and that more than the net assets, then we will have a profit. If the consideration is less than the net assets, then we will have a loss. Goodwill also need to be disposed. Goodwill, we cannot have a goodwill in financial statements. We will have a loss, and that loss will be to our parent company. So that is what the impact that will have, and it will not be consolidated anymore in any future after that.
Right.
Right. So that's the first part of the question that we will, and you will be saying very unlikely that we will make a profit of this situation, knowing that we are not doing very well. The LOLC will ask for a bargain price, and since there is nothing happening, we will most likely end up with a loss. And it need to be done at open market, and the amount that what we get will be shown as a loss. So that's the first part.
Okay.
Right? That's a but we didn't know what will happen to the account. So most likely what will happen to the accounts is it will end up showing a loss on this film, on this transaction.
Right.
That is what the loss, what will happen to the account, that is what he is asking. So we very unlikely that we are going to make a profit out of it. We will be making a loss out of it.
Right, yeah.
how can we value shares of SN to negotiate the consideration that need to be paid by LOLC for our 50% stake. Now remember, this company is an unlisted company. Right?
Yes.
The SN Finance. Mentine is a listed company, but this subsidiary is an unlisted company. So in an unlisted company, how do we value shares? You have to discuss the couple of methods what you know and probably think of what is the best method what we can use. If it's a market, if it's a listed company, we surely have a market price. We can go by the market price. But here, SN Finance is an unlisted company because there are only two shareholders, we and our partner LOLC. Now LOLC wants to buy. So obviously they will ask, okay, at what price you are going to sell your shares, right? So obviously you want to sell it at the highest price, they want to buy it at the lowest price. So it has to be a negotiation that happens between the two companies, which will ultimately come to a realistic price. So what are the, can you remember the methods or the basis of valuation of shares? The basis of valuation of shares. I'll remind you one. One is the net assets method. Net assets method.
Oh yeah, I forgot, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah. So one is the net assets method. There are many methods. Listed companies.
I can't remember, sorry.
It's all right, don't worry. Right. So we are going to look at some of the methods of valuation. I'm going to pull out something and I'm going to discuss some of the business valuation methods.
Right.
So what are the factors that affect a business valuation? So the reported sales, profits and asset values. So here at the moment we don't have any sales, right? We don't have any profit. We probably have some assets because we would have invested on something we have. But forecasted sales, profits and asset value. So forecasted sales is what we can think of. It may not be very good at the moment and that can have an impact. So although there are many other things, it's ultimately the last one, perspective of the buyer and the seller, the expectations. So here, from LOS's point of view, they might be thinking it's good for them to buy this company and complete the film rather than just waiting like this, not doing anything because they might lose their 40%.
Right, yeah.
From our point of view, we are so frustrated with this scenario and we just want to get rid of this. So this is an ideal opportunity for both the people, that is, to sit and negotiate. So if it's a listed company, we always have a market price. But we not being a listed company, being an unlisted company, there is no market value. So we have to go by some kind of a proxy valuation, look at a similar company and see what the shares are. But here we cannot do that one because there may not be a similar company in a similar state with a film. So this is an extraordinary situation. It's not a normal situation. If it's a normal situation, we can apply normal rule. But here we may have to think of something different. So the way the valuation methods, I just want you to remind you, one is to go by the asset base.
Asset base.
Now how much we have spent, all what we have spent is assets. That is what we have paid to the cars, what we have done. So we have to look at the asset base and think, okay, how much can we recover. That's one way. Right? There are a lot of intangible assets in a business, but that is not reflected in your balance sheet. But here, in this case, we may not have any intangible assets. Intangible assets are something like a goodwill. But here, you can see the market is really pressing us down. The advertisements, the competitors, all that songs is not really helping us to build up a goodwill on the film. Earnings base. You can go by projected earnings. Okay, if the film is completed by LOLC, and if it is projected, if it is done, how much can we earn? And that we can make it a share. Okay, for 50%, this is what we are going to pay. Then cash flow basis. The earnings means you just go by things like depreciation and all accounting. Cash flow means we look at all the future cash, what we are going to get. So LOLC can think, okay, if I spend another 50%, how much finally we will get, and then work out on the cash basis and look at to that one. Dividend valuation. Now this is good to value a company where you are not buying the controlling interest, you are buying only for share purposes. But here we are selling, we are just keeping 10% not for dividends, we are just keeping a 10% for to have some influence, because we believe by having some influence we may be able to get the distribution of the film later on. That's the only reason. So dividend valuation may not be very relevant to us. Dividend valuation is definitely not relevant to LOLC, because when LOLC gets the 90%, they are controlling the dividends. At the moment we are controlling the dividend. But the moment they get the 90%, they are controlling the dividend. So there is nothing for them to worry about the dividend. So it will not have an impact on them.
Right. Yeah.
If you look at the asset-based valuation, it is simply the worth of the company based on the assets. Right? So we have to look at all what we have spent on this film and look at how much it is. Of course, it does not take into account intangibles, and we most likely we will not have any intangibles because the film is at the moment doesn't have a good reputation. However, having said that one, if the film is based on a script, and if the script is a good script, you might still have an intangible.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the film may be, because it's going through trouble because of the actor, but the film may be based on a good story. And if the story is good, still there may be some kind of an intangible. If you are not paid for it, or if they are paid, it may be worth much more than that one.
Yeah.
So asset-based valuation is generally applied to find the minimum price. Minimum price. So there are many ways of asset-based. The book values, we can go by replacement value, we can go by the net realizable value. Whatever we value, we can find the minimum price. That's what we call the floor price for the seller. We will not sell below the minimum price. We will not sell below the asset-based price. That will be our floor price, because at least we must recover the money we have paid.
Right. Yeah.
But having said that one, they can go for earnings based, can work out, so basis and basis very readily available, they provide the minimum value. Of course, the future business is completely ignored, because this is a film. This is we are not going to end up here. We are going to continue. Only thing we believe it's good, not good for us to continue. We want our other partner to continue it. Right? So from that angle, I think they can go beyond asset valuation, and they probably can look at something better than I don't think there will be so much of intangibles here, but better than that, they can look at something like earnings-based valuation. Earnings-based valuation. They can apply, and in fact, it will be a better thing even to apply not the earnings-based, even to cash flow based. Look at all what future cash, what they have to pay, and see discounting rate, get the present value, and that can be your valuation. So if the value comes to say $300 million, 50% of the shares will be valued at 150 million. 50% of the shares will be valued at 100. So they can get both the parties together, sit on a table and work through a kind of a thing. Price earnings valuation method may not be really applicable here. To apply the price earnings ratio, we must know a similar company with a similar film. Now, this is not a scenario where we will have similar companies and similar films. So because of that, I don't think it is the right way to go for it. The right way to go for in this scenario is to go with the kind of scenario to go with the future cash flows for this specific film, because our company will have a lot of experience, and to work out a calculation and to believe on that one and to go for it.
Okay, yeah.
So this is what the method I think I would recommend for this company as far as this scenario is concerned.
Okay.
The last part of the question is another very interesting one. How can we tell whether net effect or divesting the subsidiary will be to enhance future cash flows? Now what you are trying to do is you are trying to divest your interest. Will it increase your future cash flows or will it reduce your future cash? Can we say that one? Can we say that?
No, we can't say that. Because the film is anyways ending up in loss, because of obviously we are selling our stake to LOLC.
Yeah.
So I think they would have more pressure on us for selling them the film at lower price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we have to consider is something like this. What happens if we continue with the film? What will be the cash flow if we continue with the film? What will be the cash flow if we sell the film? Because if we sell the film, we are not entitled for any profit except the 10% on which we might get a dividend.
Right.
We are not entitled for anything more than that. And of course, we will get the upfront cash. That's all.
Right.
Right. But on the other hand, if we continue with the film, even with all the difficulties, we will have a 60% profit share.
Okay.
Understand? That's how we have to compare. So it's difficult for us to say the net effect of divesting at this moment of time without doing a proper evaluation. The evaluation is to see if we continue with the film, despite all the odds, right? If we continue with the film, you remember this, it has nothing to do with this film, but you remember DC3 earlier film, what we were doing. You remember, ultimately it became a box office success, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't bring that into this scenario, but what I'm trying to say is, in business, you go through some difficult scenarios and you never know. Finally, you might get a better actor, finally, maybe in 2018, and the film will come and it will hit all the box records.
Yeah.
And in that case, you will be having a better cash flow rather than selling it, because when you sell, what you get is the immediate cash, that's all, but and a 10% share a dividend. Because we have no control, they will decide if they pay a dividend, it's all right. If they decide not to pay a dividend, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for us to say at this moment of time, but remember, this film is so far not completed. We do not know whether it is going to end up with a loss or not.
Right.
It is what that is what the Shatrin White told in the earlier scenario. We as a board have not thought whether it is going to be a loss or not. We as a board, we are frustrated with this film. The delays and the agony, it's a frustration, right? So on the frustration, we are trying to dispose of this one. So you probably being a more balanced person, a CIMA qualified person, you probably want to tell them, don't do anything in frustration. Don't do anything in frustration. Evaluate. evaluate and see if we continue with the film, we are only short of actor.
Right, yeah.
We are only short of an actor. We are not short of money. We are not short of anything. Our advertisers, our competitors are really attacking. That's all right. That kind of a thing happens not only to us, it happens to all. Right? Should we just because the competitor is attacking, just to get frustrated and just to sell it because we can't, as you rightly said, we can't sell it for a big price. We have to sell it almost at a loss. So on a probability effect, I believe by divesting, it will not improve the future cash flows. Reason why I say so, we can't get a good price at this moment. We will be selling at a poor price. LOLC will be in a stronger position to bargain and buy.
Right, yeah.
But on the other hand, if we keep the control, LOLC can't do anything at the moment. They can't come and sue the company because they are shareholders. They can't come and sue the company. They have to just wait. We don't have any loans, assuming. We don't have any loans. We have no bigger obligation. Wait. Isn't it? Wait.
Yeah.
And see whether we can find a good actor and do the film and complete it.
Yeah.
So on the probability effect, I think by trying to dispose at a price which is at a bargain to LOLC, our future cash flows will not get enhanced. In fact, it may reduce.
Right, yeah, okay.
This is what I would think. So you can see, even though there were not lot of information, with our knowledge, with our experience, knowing that what is going to happen, we can probably guess what can happen and we should be able to work it out.
Yeah, right.
So this is the answer that I would go for it. So you can think now and try to work out a kind of an answer for this kind of a question. Think very, calmly. Should not get bow down to the pressures and the frustration of the board. We must be more calm. We must be more mature and try to see whether we can get a better kind of a scenario.
Right, yeah.
Right. So that's good. So tomorrow also we have a class, I think. No?
Yes, we do have. But tomorrow, can we make it at like 11? Would that be fine for you?
11. Yeah, I just have a student 10 to 11, but I should be finishing at 11. Maybe 11:05 I should be able to start it.
It's fine, yeah?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. And Kumar, can we also have a session on methods of financing a
Yeah,
film?
sure.
Like
yes, we should have something on equity finance, long-term finance, all
yeah,
that.
because I have read, but you know what? These days it's like everything is muddling up, and so I just want to make sure that I know.
Sure. We will do that, man. Yeah. So tomorrow we will meet at 11. How is your Saturday or Sunday?
We can do it on Saturday, like 10 in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's all right. Yeah, so shall we do Saturday 10 o'clock? Yeah, that should be all right for this week, I think. Then
right,
we can...
Tomorrow we are meeting at 11 and
Tomorrow
Saturday
we
we are
are
meeting
meeting
at
at
10.
11. Tomorrow, Saturday we will meet at 10 o'clock.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask you something else as well. Okay, I don't have the copy of this mock, the one which we discussed right
Okay,
now.
I will send it to you now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send
Okay,
it to you.
fine.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll see you tomorrow at 11. I may be
No
5
problem.
minutes late, but I should be there.
Sure. No problem. That's fine.
Okay, take care. Have a great day,
Okay,
Vina.
Kumar. You too
Bye.
as well. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.